Hello and welcome to ReginaldESQ. I am Underhook and this is my review of the German Tier 2 premium light tank, the Pz.II D. So, is it any good? It's not very good. Sorry about that, folks. I've got to switch over to my human voice. Some of you probably don't know I am an Android. Now, yeah, it's not a great tank. This tank is the 2014-15 gift tank, premium gift tank to all of us for Happy New Year. And I'm going to compare it to the T7 Combat Car, which was the Golden Joystick Award gift tank in 2013. And I'm also going to compare it to the the British Light Vic, sometimes called the Vic, or the 6C, which was the New Year's gift tank for 2013-14 as well. It's not a great tank, but neither were the other two. It is a gift tank after all, and yeah, you can't expect too much when they give it away. Now, it does have some interesting points though. I'm going to compare it, like I said, to the other two. So it has 210 hit points, which is actually pretty good for a tier 2 tank. The T7 Combat Car and Light Vic only have 150. So 210 hit points is a lot better than that. So it's pretty good hit point wise. Now it weighs in at 11 ton. The T7 Combat Car was 10 ton and the Light Vic is only 5.2 ton. So weight wise it's not bad too. Now, it has a top speed of 55 kilometers an hour, but you're only ever going to reach that if you're going down a hill. On the flat, it won't get to that, and it's pretty sluggish uphill because the sort of power to ton ratio isn't that good. That said, the T7 Combat Car does 56 kilometers an hour in forward and 20 in reverse, and that's actually quite nippy now, the T7 Combat Car. It used to be much slower, but they sped it up in one of the recent patches. And the Light Vic is 52 kilometers an hour, and Light Vic is similar, has a poor power to ton ratio, so it slows right down up hills. Now, track traverse on this is 45, which is actually pretty good, so it turns quite well on a spot. It is fairly maneuverable. T7 Combat Car has 44 and the Light Vic has 40, although Light Vic just doesn't feel anywhere near as maneuverable as this one. Turret traverse of 44 is also very good. Now, the T7 Combat Car has terrible turret traverse of only 24 and is terrible at close range engagements and circling work and stuff because of that, whereas this tank can actually pull off close range work. The Vic has 37, so still nowhere near as good as this one, but passable. View range on this is 320 meters, which is better than the other two. The T7 Combat Car only has 280, which is terrible, and the Vic has 300. So this one is the best at 320. Signal range on this is 345, and that is better than the T7 Combat Car, but not quite as good as the Light Vic. But it's not bad. Now, camouflage-wise, this tank actually has pretty good camouflage, because if we look at those other two, particularly the T7 Combat Car, because that has sort of the worst camouflage. You can see a T7 Combat Car is a fair bit bigger, especially height-wise, which is one of the key things. The Light Vic has very similar camouflage. You can see the Light Vic is quite a small tank. So of the three, this one is probably slightly worse than the Vic, but much better than the T7 Combat Car. So camouflage is pretty good. Gun depression wise, this tank has 10 degrees of gun depression and 20 degrees of elevation. So the gun depression is very good. The Light Vic also has 10 degrees of gun depression and the T7 Combat Car has whopping 15 degrees. So it's pretty comparable. Elevation wise though, the T7 Combat Car has a massive 40 degrees and the Light Vic has 37. This only has 20. So its elevation's not that great, but I didn't find it really too much of a problem because the tank is fairly maneuverable. Now, unlike the other two, this tank actually gets access to premium ammunition. I'm not going to go into all the components for this tank because there's nothing to grind because it's premium, but we'll just have a look at the gun here. Actually, I might pull up the other two guns and we can compare them to the guns on the other two tanks. So here we have the three guns. So on the left here we have the gun off the tank we're reviewing, which is the Pz.II D. Then we have the gun here off the British Light Vic and the gun here off the American T7. So we can see that this is a 20mm gun, so it's larger than the guns on the other tanks. It has a autoloader, it's 10 rounds in the magazine, and it takes 0.21 of a second between shells. So you're firing about all 10 rounds in just over 2 seconds, which is pretty quick. Reload time of the magazine is 4.2 seconds, which is actually quite quick for an autoloader to reload. The standard ammunition does 23 damage, has a penetration of 23 millimeters, which is absolutely terrible. And it does 11 damage per round, which is actually not bad. If you use premium ammunition, you can get 46 millimeters of penetration, which is pretty good. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Accuracy is 0.57, which is really, really bad. If you add anything over sort of 60 meters, you're definitely going to miss with some of your shots. 1.4 second aiming time is one of the best in the game. That is a very quick aiming time and is awesome. Now, if we compare it to the light Vic gun, this has 40 shells in the magazine, which is huge. And it fires a shell every 0.14 of a second, so it's a much faster firing gun. You're firing about 8 rounds a second. Now, the time to complete load though is 18 seconds. So once you expel your magazine in the Vic, you are extremely vulnerable. It has no armor as well. But its average penetration is 27, which is a lot better than the 23 penetration we have here. However, there is no premium ammunition available on the Vic. Average damage is 9, not as good as it is on our Pz.II D here. Accuracy of 0.52, not as good as our German tank either. Aiming time of 1.5 is still exceptionally good. Now if we compare that to the American gun, which has 50 rounds in the magazine, incredible. Fires a shell every 0.11 of a second. So you are firing about 10 or 9.5 rounds per second, very fast. Takes 24 seconds though to reload, which at tier 2 is a heck of a long time, and you really have to run and hide while you're reloading. Average penetration exactly the same as the Vic, 27, so still much better than the Pz.II D. And the shell though only does 8 damage per shot, which is pretty low. Accuracy is 0.53, also terrible, but still much better than the Panzer. And aiming time 1.7 is the slowest of the three, but still not bad. Now, what I want to talk about is the penetration of this gun. Actually, two things. The tank that we're looking at right now, this German tank, does not get preferential matchmaking as some premium tanks do. So both the Vic, the British tank, and the T7 both get premium matchmaking, which means, or preferential matchmaking, which means they only see tier 2, nothing higher than that. Whereas this tank we just got, the German one, sees tier 2 and tier 3. So that's a bit of a disadvantage. On top of that, the penetration is 23, where the other guys have got 27. Now, when the Vic and the T7 first came out, they also had, I think it was also 23 mils of penetration. But they were buffed about 4 patches ago and were given 27 millimeters of penetration. So the penetration was increased. Now, when you consider they only see tier 2, and this guy sees, the German one sees tier 3 as well, I'm hoping in 6 months' time they will buff the penetration on this tank as well, and it will be a very good tank if they do that. However, premium ammunition is available on this tank, which it wasn't on the other two, so they may just say, well, just use premium. Here's my problem with that. It is 400 credits per shell. Now, in the game I'm going to show you, I fire over 150 rounds, and the gun isn't very accurate. So 150 rounds at 400 per round, I think, if my math is correct, that's 60,000 credits. Are you ever going to make 60,000 credits in a tier 2 game in this tank? I doubt it. Wow. So it's a money loser. And I think, look, if you want to be cynical, you could say the reason they're doing this is so that you get used to firing premium rounds and paying for your rounds at an early stage and think it's normal, and so you're more likely to buy premium. Maybe that's why, or maybe, I don't know, maybe they just say, no, that's, hey, use premium if you want. But really, against T3 tank, a lot of tier 3 tanks, you don't have a chance unless you use premium. Anyway, let's get off that. Now, I have toolkit fitted, camouflage net fitted, and binoculars fitted, mainly because they're the 3 free ones that I can switch between tanks. That's the only reason. If you're going to keep the tank, you might put on Actually, you know what? Probably would keep the binoculars and camouflage net anyway, and maybe just put a gun rammer or something on it. Now, my crew, when you watch these games, is fully trained, and that's because they're the crew from my L Tractor, the Tier 1 German tank. Being a premium tank, I can put them straight in as long as it's another light tank, and they work fully qualified. So my commander has 85% situational awareness to increase the view range. This guy's working on camouflage 86%, and this guy's also working on camouflage at 86%. So when you watch the gameplay, bear that in mind. It fully trained crew with some skills that are currently working on. Also have a small repair kit, large repair kit, large first aid kit fitted when you're watching the gameplay. I will now actually jump into Tank Inspector and we'll have a look at it. But basically the strategy with this tank is to... you can kind of work hills in this tank, and you just got to be a little bit careful not to take too much fire. The front of the tank, or parts of the front of the tank, can actually stop some shots, particularly from the two tanks we were just talking about, the Light Vic and the T7 combat car. But anything with a decent gun will punch straight through it because it's pretty flat. I'll have a look at that in Tank Inspector anyway. But yeah, use this tank strategically, use its camouflage, and you can have reasonable games, especially at Tier 2. Let's get into it. Pz.II D in Tank Inspector. So let's have a quick look in the colorized view. Now we can see that we have a fairly flat lower plate here, but it's 30mm thick, which isn't too bad. And same with the upper plate that covers the driver's viewport is also 30mm. The bit in between here is only 15mm. Now it is very heavily sloped, but when the arm is this thin, sloping makes no difference. So it still only gives us 15mm. The front of the turret is also 15mm at its thickest. Side of the tank, 15mm, 15. Rear, 15. Top deck, 12. Top of the turret, 10. So really the only part of the tank that has any armor that's ever going to stop anything is these two areas here. Now, if you have a T7 combat car, a Light Vic firing at you, and you turn your front to them, remember they have 27 mils of penetration, so it will stop them. So definitely, if they're shooting at you, make sure you turn and face them, and they'll bounce some. Now, their guns are very inaccurate, so even if they're aiming here or here, a lot of their shots will still hit these other bits, and you'll block some of the shots. At least it might be enough for you to stay alive. Now, compared to the T7 combat car and the Light Vic, the T7 combat car's thickest armor is 16mm, and the Light Vic's thickest armor is 14mm. So this is definitely the most well armored of the three of them, but it's still pretty poor. Now, you will block some Tier 2 stuff with the front of this tank, but at Tier 3 you're pretty much a goner armor wise.
Let's get this show on the road.
The map is Corellia, and it's not a very good matchup for this tank because it's a Tier 3 game. About half the tanks on the other team are Tier 3s, and our gun only has 23mm of penetration, so let's see how we get on. As you can see, the tank accelerates rapidly downhill. We just hit just over 60 kilometers per hour then, and we're still in the 50s now, so that's not too shabby. Fortunately, the team only has one T18 on their team. We won't be able to penetrate that, I don't think. Most of the other tanks we might be able to penetrate, so hopefully it won't be too bad. Now, even though the tank is quick, it's not as quick as you can see like a Pz.II D or those sort of things. So unfortunately, we're not first to the hill, and we're under enemy fire. So I'm just hoping and praying I don't get hit on the way up here. Now, I do need to get up here quick because our Pz.II D up the top is on his own, and they've got 3 tanks on their side of the hill. And if he dies, I will die. So I need to get up there as fast as possible to back him up. I don't want him to get surrounded. We need to put the pressure back. And we have a side of the tank exposed to us. Very nice. So we get some shots into the side of the Pz.II D there. I expend the rest of my clip and now decide to run, because remember, we've got a little bit of frontal armor, but our turret armor is very weak, and that's going to be the last thing that goes down the hill. So you need to move back early in this tank, I think. Now, I carry 150 rounds of standard ammo and 30 rounds of premium ammo in the tank. I don't use any premium ammunition in this game though. So the T110 E5 was it? No, a T1 E6 there, sorry. He's definitely got our number. We managed to get a few shots into him. He gets one good shot into us. So he does 30 damage to us, we do 36 to him. I've now reloaded my magazine and looks like we're going to exchange fire again. He sits there and enables us to get most of our clip into him, and we finish him off. He only does 30 damage to us. So you can see there, trading shots if the other tank doesn't have great armor can be effective, because this tank, if all the shots penetrate, 10 times, is it 11 damage per shot? 10 times 11 is 110 damage per clip, which is pretty damn good. Now we managed to get some shots into that Pz.II D, but not enough to only two of them penetrated. Now he's whacking us, and almost we're in big trouble because it's side on. What saved us then was our hit points, pure and simple. We had enough hit points to absorb the damage. Now artillery did just shoot at me then too, so I need to keep the tank moving now. My driver was killed just then, so I've used a large repair kit, which I normally wouldn't use in a tier 2 game, but because I was trying to do this for a review, I just wanted to play as few games in the tank as possible, to be honest with you. So I used a large repair kit. Wouldn't normally use, a large first aid kit. I have also used my small repair kit already as well. Now you can see there we're hitting that front plate a fair bit on that Pz.II D, and it did bounce our shots easily. So yeah, now I did find with this tank that almost every time you get hit, or it seems like every time you get hit, someone in your crew is killed or a module is damaged. The tank is, even though it has a lot of hit points, its modules and crew are extremely fragile. Let's see if we can get an LTPP. I'd be pretty happy if we could kill this. Good side shots. In the front of the LTPP, I reckon we would have had trouble with, or the LTP, sorry. And he gets a shot at us for 35 and finishes us off. So end of the game for us. So not a great game, but it does show that even in a tier 3 game using standard ammunition, you can at least have a reasonable game. So class 3, let's have a look at the next screen. We finished 4th in our team for experience. We got beaten though, I think, didn't we? Anyway, 215 damage isn't a lot of damage, but the gun doesn't do a lot of damage. We fired 70 rounds, 45 of those hit, and 19 of those penetrated. So you can see that if you were using premium ammunition exclusively, and it's kind of hard not to use it exclusively because it's 10 rounds in a magazine. We'll put it this way, every 10 rounds in the magazine you use is 4,000 credits. So what's 7 4s? That's at 28,000 credits it would have cost us. Now we made 6,500 credits in that game, so if we'd used premium ammunition, we would have lost over 20,000 credits. So the argument that, I just use premium against tier 3s is a bit of a hard one to justify in my opinion. We did 215 damage, we received 23 hits, so we took a lot of hits from auto-loaders as well. 15 of them penetrated, so we did actually manage to block some or get some absorbed by tracks. 8 of them penetrated, and we got a bit of splash damage from Artie. We spotted 2 vehicles, damaging 4, destroying 1, which is not too bad for this tank. I've got a good game coming up though, so have a look at this one, next one.
Let's go.
The map is Malinovka, and it's a bit of a better matchup for us this time. It's a tier 2 game, and there's even 4 tier 1s on the enemy team, so we should have a pretty good chance of doing well. Also, it's a good map for this tank. When you have a tank that doesn't have high penetration gun and doesn't have the best armor, hilly maps with lots of bushes are great. Town maps are terrible because everyone can see you, so you really want to be hard to see, or you want to have hills that you can hide behind. So I'm going for an early spot position. I want to try and do a little bit of spotting of the enemy if I can. And looks like, I don't think I spotted that Pz.II D, but somebody did. But that's the equivalent tank of this, so he's not even looking at us. We're getting some side shots here. We hit with most of those shots, 3 penetrated. So out of 10 shots, we've got 3 penetrations. So you can see penetration is not great, and also accuracy isn't real good. There's a T18 up there who could probably one-shot kill me, or just about, so I want to avoid getting hit by him. I just got hit by a L-Tractor though, a tier 1 tank. So I definitely have been spotted. But yeah, I don't want to get hit by that T-18. I'm being very careful. Now, someone's got rid of the T-18, so that's great news for us. Means even though we can still get damage, we're probably unlikely to be one-shot killed. So I'm trying to do a bit of spotting here. And here we have an M2 medium. That accuracy actually wasn't too bad, considering I had to move the gun while it was firing. Now, I've got a little bush here I'm using. I'm trying to keep myself covered from those tanks on the hill. Make it a bit harder for them to see me. And I'm assuming, I could be wrong, I didn't actually double check, but because this gun is a low caliber gun, it probably doesn't give your position away as badly as a higher caliber gun would when you fire it. So I decided to just destroy this building here, and I'm rewarded by getting a few shots into that Pz.II D there after the building is destroyed. I've reloaded, I go back, he's still sitting there. So obviously not a very experienced player. Unfortunately, he's got 5 hit points left and somebody else gets the kill. I didn't have any more rounds left in the magazine. We've reloaded now, we've got a BT2. We're managing to penetrate him okay at that range, so that's pretty good at that range. Because that's not exactly close range. Now that's something I didn't remember to tell you either. When comparing this to the light Vic and the T7 combat car, the T7 combat car loses a lot of penetration over range, and the gun range is quite limited. So the range of the gun is about 390 meters, I think. Above that, it just won't hit anything. It just can't make the range. Whereas the light Vic has much better range. So it tends to be a much better gun when you're shooting people at middle to long distance, whereas the T7 combat car has much useless medium to long range. This gun is okay, as you can see, at medium ranges, medium and even longish ranges. It does lose a fair bit of pen over long range, but so this T2 medium is 305 meters, and you can see we managed to penetrate it with one of the shots. We are getting an orange indicator though on the tank. Light Vic though, not a problem with its 14 mils of armour. It doesn't really stand a chance even at that range. Now this is, you can see where I am, a very good spot. I've got a bush which is kind of keeping me a little bit camoed from the tanks on the hill. I've got this hill here as well, and I can move down this hill when I want to avoid being shot at from people who are in front of the way my tank is pointing out. So, good spot. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. That light Vic is firing at me. I continue to fire on the move, and I'm trying now to turn my tank to face him, but he tracks me. And I'm turning my tank to face him because that armor will bounce some shots. I'm, fortunately though, very lucky. It looks like he either ran out of ammo, or because he was close to death, he might have been worried about me finishing him off, and so he pulled back. He probably didn't realise that my magazine was empty, or he didn't want to take the chance. So I've slid down the hill here to get out of the way of fire. My cover's been blown, and I'm worried about this BT2. I don't know if he knows I'm here or not, and because I'm concentrating on him, I'm not backing up very well here. There he is. I'm really with my gun elevation. I can't get a shot at him, so I've got to keep backing up this hill so I can lift my gun up high enough to shoot him. And fortunately for me, he actually comes down the hill. Oh dear, it wasn't enough to kill him, and I'm really worried now that he's going to finish me off. But I think one of my other teammates was shooting at me as well, and he turned his gun to my other teammate, which let me finish him off. Either that or he couldn't see me. He must have been able to see me though. Not sure what happened there. Now the enemy team only has 2 tanks remaining, and it's the T2 medium and the light Vic on the hill. So this is a really good spot for shooting at people on the hill, because I can come up here, expose a little bit of my tank, shoot, and then back down the hill again to avoid return fire. So great spot this for attacking people on the hill. Now I've got a medium one there moving up, so hopefully he will spot them for me. I still have 100 hit points left, which is not a lot, but when you consider that that light Vic only has started the 150, it's alright. So we should be able to finish him if we can hit him, and we do. So he only had 5 hit points left. I just spray the rest of my magazine up there to get rid of the shells. Now, I have now used up all my regular shells. So I had 150 regular shells in the tank and 30 premium shells. Now, those last 10 shells I fired were premium because I've run out of my regular shells, which I didn't realise at the time until about now. I think I looked and thought, oh, geez, I've only got premium left. And then I thought, well, you know what, this guy's the last tank, and I was having a little bit of trouble penning him at that range before anyway, so it's probably not a bad thing that I've got premium loaded. Now, I can see him up there, and I can see my medium 2 on my team is moving up the hill to engage him, but this guy is shooting him into, so I'm figuring I'm going to try and get round behind this T2 because he probably won't be expecting it. If I go up the hill in front of him, he's probably got a pretty good position, and yeah, he could kill me with a couple of shots, as he just did to our other tank that was going up the hill there. So I'm going to try and sneak around behind him and surprise him, so we'll see how we go. I'm just going to speed this up a little bit to 4 times here, because, you know, going uphill is pretty boring. Now, our team is capping. I'm slowing down normal. You can see there's 77% capped. So I'm thinking, oh no, am I going to have enough time? Are we going to cap before I get a chance to shoot this guy? Please, please, please. 82% capped. No, don't end. I want to get another shot in. And there he goes. He doesn't know we're here, folks. He's just realised now he's trying to turn his turret, and it's too late. Yippee! So, a mastery game in the Pz.II D, which I was quite impressed with because there's a lot of people playing the Pz.II D at the moment because it's a recent gift. So I was quite impressed with myself, but I think part of it's because I already have a fully trained crew, which I was able to pull over from the other tank, and it doesn't cost anything to do that, being a premium tank. So that's probably helped me. Some other people might be have the tank but not have a fully trained crew. That could explain it. You can see that that's position we went to. We were able to do quite a bit of early spotting. So we detected the first one to detect 5 of their tanks, and you can see there's quite a few tanks there that we got assistance damage for, which is part of the reason why we got mastery in this game. So we finished on top for XP for our team. We finished on top for damage for our team, but not for the whole game. The BT2 on the opposition team had a really good game, doing over 600 damage with 3 kills, and got high caliber. So whilst we did well, it is difficult to do high amounts of damage in this tank. You can see there I only had, at the end of the game, 10 rounds remaining in my gun. So it's difficult to have really big damage games in this tank. We fired 170 rounds out of our total of 180. 82 of those were direct hits, which is a little under half of them. Of the ones that hit, 44 penetrated. So it looks like if you're shooting at sort of medium ranges, about half your shots will hit, and about half of the hit will pen, and that's at tier 2, tier 1. Damage 471 is pretty good in this tank. 64 of that was from over 300 meters, so most of our shots were under 300 meters. Hits received, we received 22 hits, 9 of them penetrated, so you can actually block a few hits with this armor. Let's see, we spotted 5 vehicles, we damaged 7 vehicles, destroying 3, which is always pretty good. 395 points of spotting damage, so, you know, that's a fair bit at tier 2. Now, 17,000 income and 11,000 profit, so not as profitable a game as normal because we did end up using 20 premium rounds, which would have cost us, what 10 is for, that would have cost us about 8,000, was it? Anyway, almost all of that cost would have been for the premium rounds. Now, XP wise, we earned 813 XP, which is why we got mastery. So that's obviously enough for mastery in this tank. Okay,